Hi, this is Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and we're here with another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. I'm very excited that we're going to be talking with Jenna Waugh today, who is the founder of a company called Million Marker. Thank you so much, Jenna, for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Greenleaf. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, you know what? I want to ask you a little bit about your background. So, how did you get into, I guess, making this company Million Marker? Like, what was it that you're like, oh, we need to start testing toxins and all that?
So I did my undergrad in nutrition, and then after I finished my dietetic degree, I was a RD, a registered dietitian in the hospital for a bit. Nobody listens to me. So that made me decided to, go back to school and study environmental health. So I studied environmental health sciences for both my master and PhD. It was through that experience I realized, we do really good external exposure assessment. We can measure what you expose to by air quality, your food. We can use the latest, greatest, image recognition on the smartphone to assess your diet. And we can, kind of get a sense of your chemical exposure by asking you, what diet you're on, what kind of product you're using. However, with all these graded external assessment, we still don't really know what's the internal exposure, because everybody have different physiology. We have different genes. So that makes us really different, but we just have no idea what's inside of us. So I was very frustrated during my research, and that's one. The second is the exposures that we assess. Oftentimes they're coming very small amounts, like low dose exposures. But these exposures you get exposed to day in and day out. Again, cumulative speaking, we don't really know what's our total exposure. So that's another hurdle I ran into during my research. So I felt there needs to be a way for us to assess our internal exposures and individually. So then we can actually understand the science and then push precision medicine forward, because now we have explosion of genetic data, but genetics actually accounts for only about 30% of your chronic disease risk. The rest of them are all your environment, and yet we don't really have a way to assess it. So that was another reason that I ran into in my research. I felt there's a need, and we need to mobilize everybody to contribute their data, because without this data, there's no way we can study it. There's no way we can push government to make safer chemical policies. So that's on the professional side, like why I started the company. On the personal side, I had a lot of fertility struggles, and after 4 late stage miscarriages, I was seeking out answers everywhere. It turns out I have 2 super rare genetic conditions that does not allow me to carry a pregnancy to full term. But at the time, doctor just tell me, good luck next time. And there was like no solution. So I was very frustrated, because I studied environmental science. I knew these chemicals, my exposure could have potential triggers. So when I looked into, could I actually get a test like this? And the answer was no. So then, combining my professional passion and goals, and then plus now there's a personal side story of it, that's prompted me to start Million Marker. That I felt, with Million Marker, we can provide people the tools to understand their exposures and actually do something about it to optimize their health, increase their fertility. Simultaneously, using the data, then we can actually, discover newer biomarkers to really take prevention, put prevention into people's hand versus just, disease treatment. That one day we have this great database that will be able to look at the gene environment interactions and really discover these biomarkers to advance precision medicine.
I love what your company is doing. I think it's so exciting because being trained in traditional medicine, it's been very frustrating, because traditional medicine is really just putting band-aids on symptoms all the time without getting down to the root cause. And I think this movement of finding root causes and really trying to make changes in our lives is really becoming very popular. And I'm very excited about what your company is doing. So what kind of with the actual test, what do you guys test for?
Right now, we're starting our first test panel. We start with a list of every chemicals in everyday products. So these are hormone disrupting chemicals or endocrine disrupting chemicals that impact pretty much all parts of your bodily function, particularly fertility. And these chemicals have been linked to, obesity, infertility, child developmental issues, ADHD, autoimmune conditions, and even cancer. So these common chemicals, right now we're testing 5 categories of them. So that's including 13 chemical metabolites. We have BPA, BPS, BPF. So people might have heard about BPA already. You can always see that sometimes your plastic water bottle is labeled BPA free. We test for phthalates. We test for 5 of them, both low molecular weight and high molecular weight. Phthalates is a plasticizer that actually makes plastic flexible. Also a chemical frequently used in fragrance. We test for paraben, 4 of them. Parabens are usually preservatives in personal care products. And we also test for oxybenzone, which is the sunblock chemical.
I didn't realize. That's really amazing. I have so many questions about each one of those chemicals, which we'll get to in a little while. But and how is your test performed?
So this is the mainly urine test. So people can simply order a test kit online, kind of like a 23andMe genetic test. You order a test kit online. We ask you to submit your first morning urine when you wake up. So then we can standardize. And usually urine in the morning is also a little more concentrated. So we then analyze your data using this machine called liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry. So then using that, then we're able to know what's inside your urine, like what's inside of your body. Then we compare your levels with the average, our users average, as well as the national average. Then we generate a report for you. Before you submit your urine sample, we also ask you to complete an exposure journal. So this journal captures your diet and as well as all the products that you have used in the last 24 hours. So then we audit your lifestyle and behaviors. By combining your test results as well as your lifestyle journal, then we'll be able to pinpoint where your exposures are coming from and letting you know what you can do to reduce these exposures.
I'm just thinking about growing up I was born in the 70s. So growing up in the 80s and we were using like styrofoam and microwaves and all this plastics. I'm like, I can't imagine what types of chemicals I've been exposed to over my lifetime. But why should we care about these chemicals?
We shouldn't care because they are hormone disrupting chemicals. And then, I think people with a little bit of medical training, whenever they hear hormone, it should ring a bell because hormones are so important in our bodily function. It literally manages everything from metabolism to sleep to mood, to growth, so everything. And they work in such tiny amount, and they also work in such precision. Think about hormone system is like the symphony of your body. So if it's not in sync, then it could trickle down many issues down the line. So we definitely want to keep our hormone balanced. The reason we really need to care about these chemicals is because when they come in, then they trigger hormone imbalance. Then you can think about it down the line, what kind of impact it could have your metabolism, so obesity, your mood, depression, and even cancer.
That's the thing I was looking into, and they were saying a lot of these endocrine disruptors, they bind to our receptors at up to like 20 times plus that of our normal hormones. So they're basically taking over the spots our normal hormones should be taking. And then like triggering, especially I'm thinking like specifically estrogen, because as a gynecologist, I see this all the time. I have to say, like within the last 10 years, I have seen such a dramatic spike in estrogen related conditions, whether that's like endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome, or just like even like problems with bleeding or uterine cancer or breast cancer. I mean, I've seen these numbers go up crazy in the last 10 years. And the only thing I can think of that people are doing differently is their chemical exposure. Because and I'm sure that's even more so than we looked at people like 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we think like there needs to be the message going out. We need to equip people with this knowledge. And another part of the mission for our company is also trying to promote science translation, because these research actually have been done for decades. We have like over 30, 40 years of knowledge on these chemicals, yet the public don't even know about it.
Wow.
Which is kind of like crazy that, if this thing is bad for you, why are we still using it? So why aren't people know about this?
That is amazing. And we're going to come back and after the break, and I want to talk to you some more about what things we're being exposed to in our lives. 80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health. All right, we're back with Jenna Watt of Million Marker talking about toxins. So Jenna, I wanted to ask you, I'm so excited about your test because I have not seen anything on the market like this. And I am always talking to patients about their exposures to household cleaners and environmental toxins. And I never even knew that. Like, I found you by chance, and I'm so excited because I'm like, I didn't know we can test for this. But the other question is, where are these things? Like, it's kind of scary if you're like, oh my God, all these toxins around us. Like, how do we go about like decreasing our toxin load?
Yeah, we should definitely be aware of where the toxins are coming from. And then this is also part of our mission and our job to trying to, one, educate people. And the second is through our test. So we identify where the toxins are coming from, and also even the chemicals that we don't test. If we find that this chemical is in your ingredient list of the product that you're using, we also point out to let you know. So we can delve into, the chemicals that we do test for. So BPA is a big one. People already know, when we first started, we asked people, do you know what BPA is? And people don't know what BPA is, but they know BPA is bad for them because their water bottle is labeled BPA free. So BPA is this magical chemical, actually. It's a plasticizer that makes, it's an additive into plastic that makes plastic shatterproof. So you will find BPA in like plastic water bottles, anything hard plastic, it could have BPA in it. BPA are also used to coat the receipt that you get from grocery store or gas station. So one biggest tip is don't touch receipt. And if you absolutely have to touch receipt, make sure you wash your hands after, because your skin actually absorb BPA a lot faster than other parts of your body. So that's like a one major source of BPA.
And I'm thinking, we were talking too, I'm like, those poor people that are working as cashiers, and they're constantly handling those receipts. I mean,
I would suggest anyone who work at a cash register wear a pair of gloves.
Yeah.
When you touch receipt day in and day out, definitely wear a pair of gloves.
Why does the receipts have BPA? What is the purpose of that?
I think it's like allowing the receipt to print better. It could be part of the ink. But now that BPA has been banned in certain products, manufacturers have started using BPA alternatives. So BPA free doesn't mean it's other bisphenol free. So oftentimes now manufacturers have been using BPS and BPF. They can literally swap one substrate, one molecule from the BPA, they can change it all the way from BPA all the way to BPZ. So the whole entire alphabet. And these chemicals, because they have really similar structures, so they have pretty much exact the same impact, or not, if not worse.
Oh no. So we're not necessarily completely safe just because it's BPA free. So
exactly. This is also what scientists really trying to urge government in terms of government policy making, is not having regrettable substitute, because BPA, now that, we banned BPA, now we can use BPS and BPF. So people have heard probably PFAS is forever chemical in the news quite a bit. And now scientists trying to urge government to regulate this chemical as a class, so then we don't have these regrettable substitutes.
Should we be avoiding everything that's plastic?
I think that would be the best, but we have like such a complicated relationship with plastic, because plastic is so convenient that I don't think we can get rid of it. But I think people need to be reduce, because reducing plastic use, not only it's better for yourself, for people around you, it's also better for the environment. And if you believe in recycling, yes, in a sense, recycling is good, but recycling actually doesn't work. It's more of an industry's strategy for greenwashing us. But I guess that's a whole separate topic.
I was looking at one of your sample reports on your website, and I didn't even think about it. It explains like somebody was using, I guess, toilet paper that was made from like recycled paper products. And I was thinking, well, that should probably be good. And I didn't realize that in your report that that's actually a bad thing. And why is that?
So because recycled paper, oftentimes receipts are also put in the recycled paper. So many times recycled paper actually have BPA. So for toilet paper, thinking about, using that piece of paper, wiping your most gentle parts of your body, and it's actually like it could increase a lot of exposure. So we recommend people to use bamboo toilet paper rather than recycled paper, toilet paper.
That makes so much more sense. What other kind of toxins are we exposed to?
Many more. So we have phthalates. Phthalates is also a really big one. It's also literally everywhere. So we test for both low molecular weight and high molecular weight phthalates. So low molecular weight phthalates, they're used in personal care products. They're usually used in fragrance or perfume. So then the fragrance and perfume can stick onto your body for much longer. Phthalates are also used, high molecular weight phthalates are used as a plasticizer to make plastic flexible. I mentioned it before. So you will find phthalates anytime that you see your personal care product in the ingredients have perfume or fragrance or now even aroma. Ditch that thing, because most likely it will have phthalates in them. And then obviously, if for high molecular weight phthalates, anything soft plastic, so for example, your kitchen saran wrap for your food, that's anything comes into food contact, ditch that too. Use a beeswax wrap instead.
Oh, I didn't know about that with the beeswax. So I was just thinking, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how many times do we put stuff on top of my food to like heat it in the microwave so it doesn't splash all over the microwave? And I'm like, oh wait, I'm putting either saran wrap or I have some plastic thing that goes on, like hard plastic thing that's going on top of my food. I'm like, oh, I'm probably better off without either one of those things.
Exactly. So use a ceramic plate instead of using either of those. And because they're using plastic containers and wraps and everything, we have also seen if people are eating out a lot, eating fast food or eating out a lot in general, they would also have higher exposure. Because Think about all the plastic containers and the utensils. These are all sources of exposure. So 2 tips that we give to people. One is eating as much as possible, because this also increases your bonding time with your family. Second, it saves money. And it's healthier. And then lastly, obviously, it reduces your exposure.
You know what I wanted to ask too, because this is something I've thought about, but I haven't looked into it. What about like what we're cooking our food like in? What are the best things to be cooking if we are going to be now eating in, because we're not going to get away from all those plastic containers?
Yes. So this is also a big debate, because now we have these forever chemicals. So one tip is we tell people to ditch all your nonstick. because nonstick, a lot of time they use Teflon, and Teflon would have the PFAS, this forever chemical. And there's a difference between the chemical we're testing right now and these forever chemical. These forever chemical is actually, the reason they call it forever chemical is that it takes forever for them to break down. If you get exposed to these things, they stay in your body for a long, long, long time. Versus like say BPA or phthalates, these are called more transient chemicals, meaning that if you actually get rid of your sources, you can actually eliminate them. The issue is because they're so prevalent and people don't remember to eliminate these behaviors. So you get day in and day out, you get a lot of exposure to them. So cans definitely ditch the nonstick. So sometimes you will see your nonstick pans is labeled PFOA, PFOS free. To be safe, I would still ditch them because it could be another alternative. So we always recommend people to use stainless steel or use cast iron or use ceramic. So also like when you cook, acidic food, then, try to use ceramic instead of like, cast iron, because then it could potentially, if you heat up high with acidic food, you could also increase your exposure to heavy metal.
Wow. This is so amazing. And like all these things I've never really thought about. And it sounds like I got to make a lot of changes in what I'm doing. Actually, no, I got to get your test. So,
but we don't want to overwhelm people. You can take like one small step at a time, so you don't get overwhelmed, because we have also seen when people get overwhelmed, they just don't do anything. But doing something is better than not doing anything. So please, don't get stressed out. You also don't need to, if you already, if we have a full bottle of shampoo that has, some fragrance in it, you don't have to change it right away. You can finish that, and next time you shop, please buy a better one.
Yeah. And I don't know, I usually been telling people to go to the Environmental Working Group website to look for products, or even that Think Dirty app. Yes. That they can look up what products, what chemicals are in the products. Do you have any other recommendations of where people can find out information about that?
Yes, EWG is a really good one. EWG is a pioneer in this field. So their Skin Deep database is pretty good. So you can check those out. Think Dirty, yes, have also curated quite a bit product. There's another organization called Made Safe. They have also have a whole list. We actually also did our own list per customer's request on our website. We have a list of approved product. Because there are already all these pioneers in, before us. Initially we weren't even thinking about doing our own approved list, but we kind of realized there's some deficiency in terms of how these groups have been doing. Oftentimes is the literature, the scientific evidence is not up to date. So then we took one extra step to make sure if we see any study, the most updated study, if there's any chemical with issues, we eliminate those. So during our process of auditing and selecting, approving these products, we make sure that they're completely clean. We also contact manufacturers to make sure, okay, what kind of packaging are you using, and as well as your manufacturing process, could you potentially have like PFAS contamination? So we ask these hard questions. But all these groups are a great resource to start.
That is wonderful. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, people can simply visit our website, www.millionmarker.com. And people can also follow us on social. We're pretty active on both Instagram, it's million_marker. And we're also on Twitter. So feel free to check us out. We have a ton of resource on our website. If you're interested in, fertility particularly, we have built a whole hub of content focusing on pregnancy and fertility. People also visit our approved product page. That's one of the most visited page. We have fact sheets. We have a lot of simple tips to teach you how to, get started on your journey to detox and use better products.
Oh, that is wonderful. And our theme this season is try. What would you like to see people try more of?
I think I would love to see people to try more to use less plastic, because again, it will help you decrease your exposures and also better for the environment. And understand and also help us spread words, and then letting other know that they need to care about these chemicals because they do impact your health.
That is wonderful. And I just want to remind people to make sure you go check out Million Marker. Also, look at our website, WYTV7.org. And while you're there, please remember to donate, because every little bit helps. Not only does it help bring great programming like today, but also you can look at all the charitable organizations and programs that we have going on. And don't forget to tune in again next week for an episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. And thank you so much, Jenna, for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Greenleaf.